Welcome to Your Story. I'm Mandy Webster. My guest today has an amazing and unique gift. He's talked to people all over the world, from Australia to England, but his home base is here in New Tecumseh. You may even recognize him off of Rogers TV. He has his own show, Seeking Spirit. Let's take a look at medium Chris Stillar.
What's your issue about a living male to your side about he needs to grow up? He needs to grow up. You keep saying this. You keep feeling this because she keeps bringing this up. It's like you don't get offended, but I'm feeling like you have said this a lot. Like, he needs to grow up, he needs to step up, he needs to mature, he's got to get his shit together.
Yeah, I just said it.
How recent?
In the car on the way here.
So guess who was riding with you in the car? Because she's bringing it up. I don't know if it's like significant other or a brother figure to you, but it's at that level and it's close to you that she's referencing that this is an issue that there's no indication. No, how do I say this? You love this guy, you care for him, so it's not like you have anger, hatred, or animosity towards. But I feel like end of your rope, and I think some other people too, but you're very vocal about it apparently. So do you know why she talked about the miscarriage? She's got that child with her.
Good.
She needs you to know that, okay? And you need to know that that child is safe, okay? You have 2 boys living. I don't know the deal, I don't know the why, but she's showing me a male in spirit with her, okay? Did you know the sex?
No.
Too early? Okay. So you believe me or you don't, but she's showing me the infant and that I felt like was a miscarriage, and she keeps talking about her grandson with her, and that they're safe, and she's watching over him. Was there one that you weren't sure if you miscarried?
Yeah.
There's one you're clear about, one you're not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I got one over there. So she wants to clarify that for you. So I don't know how much in question. Here you go.
Sorry.
Don't apologize. I don't know how much in question you are about. I'm not sure if I was pregnant and lost or what, but one you're definite about.
Yeah.
One you speculate, but she makes me feel like I only have the one.
Okay.
So I don't know. But there is a soul connected to that little guy, and there is a person and a personality connected to that little guy, and he was never meant to walk the earth, she says. So just know that. And what do you feel bad about the grave about? He's just bringing that up, and he's like, knock it off. Knock it off.
He didn't have a will or insurance or anything when he passed, because we didn't know he was sick. So I didn't know if, being how cheap he was, if he would want me to bury his ashes or just keep them or what to do. So I put it off, and then I ended up just burying them.
Not in a plot?
In a plot.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go and buy an individual one. He's kind of with someone.
Somebody else?
Yes.
So Thrifty Ron would probably be okay with that.
That's what I was thinking. I figured I'd go the cheapest route, because he wouldn't want me to go and buy an individual, and he'd be like, save your money.
He does not want you feeling bad about the grave. That's plain and simple.
That's funny.
What you did, you did.
I was just talking about that on the way here to myself. I'm like, if something's going to happen, please talk about that.
About the grave?
Please let me know if you're happy with that.
You got a tattoo? Who's got honestly, who would have the tattoo on the back that he's like acknowledging or making reference to then? This person needs to know.
My daughter.
Your daughter has it? In honor of him?
Yes.
Because he says, like, he knows, he sees it. She wouldn't have had it prior, so you need to let her know that he knows that she's got it, because I know it's a female, and he kept talking about the tattoo. So it's like, I know, I see it. He wants you to know that. Pass it on, okay?
Welcome back to Your Story. And just before the break, we got to watch some clips from a show on Rogers TV called Seeking Spirit. And now I'm joined by medium Chris Stillar. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mandy.
We got to watch some clips before the break. But before we get into them, I want to talk a little bit about your past, kind of what you did before you were a medium, and also how did you become a medium? How did you know you had this gift?
Well, I guess my work history is, before doing this, was a lot of newspaper work, advertising, marketing, working for local newspapers, and also on the base at the military paper. And as far as how this happened for me, I don't call it a gift, but the ability. It came about from, first off, an illness I had, or an issue with my brain back in 1994 that hospitalized me, kind of shut my capacity down for functioning briefly. Didn't know who my family was, and I think, for all intents and purposes, it was pretty much stroke-like that I was having. And I came back from that. I had severe headaches as a result of one of the treatments they gave me at the time in the hospital, and something happened with one of the headaches that felt like a rupturing in the back of my spine the night I got out of the hospital. And I think it was that medical aspect that literally unlocked a door that allows me to do what I do for a living now. It didn't happen right then. That was 1994. The first time that I was aware of spirit and my awareness of connecting with was 2 years later when my grandmother died.
Interesting. So do you think after your grandma passed away, was she the first one who kind of came back to you, or was it other spirits that were coming to you first?
Yeah, it wasn't my grandmother that came to me at all. It just happened to be 2 weeks after her death that it happened. So I credit her saying that her death is what kind of opened the door for me to do this. I think physically it happened 2 years prior, but I don't think emotionally or mentally I would have been ready. So once I lost her, I had a lot of questions about the spirit world. So that's when the door opened.
And where do you go after that? Is there like help groups for help? I talk to spirits.
You've known me long enough that I'm stubborn. I don't listen to people. I don't follow direction well. So work groups and study groups wouldn't be my forte, wouldn't be my avenue. I read books. I meditated. I developed it on my own, and I had to explore what it was, what it would be, and a lot of times I probably felt like I was like a mouse in a maze and hitting some dead ends, but I had to do it my way. I didn't want to take other people's advice or opinions or bad beliefs. So that's pretty much how it unfolded for me. Just trial and error, but it happened quickly.
And do you call yourself a psychic medium, spiritual medium, just a medium? What do you call yourself?
They all work. My website says spiritual medium. You'll see my public literature for my public events, speaking engagements. I often will put psychic medium. Sometimes I just reference myself medium. So there's no wrong term.
And so now you've been doing this for quite a few years.
Yeah, I'm old. 18 years.
You're not that old. 18 years. So how often do you see clients? I know you're really busy and you're really booked up. How often do you see clients? Do you just do them in person, or is it phone, internet? How does it work?
Well, I don't work through the internet. I just prefer not to. So I do basically in-office readings Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Out of that time, we will book telephone reading days and read for clients. All within one day, I'll do readings from around the world. And this past Tuesday, I did 3 readings that particular day. And my first one was at 9 in the morning for a lady in Australia. And then at 10:30 was a lady in New Jersey. And then at 12 noon was a lady in Hawaii.
Wow.
So, the clients, because of internet, because of video footage of me from my public events on YouTube and stuff like that, the mass appeals there, and people kind of like what they see. I'm happy about that, and so they feel like they can connect and resonate with me. They seem to think that I'm honest. So I like portraying that. That's who I am, and it seems to speak to people in general.
So you think that's how, for the most part, people across the world are seeing you over the internet?
Yeah, locally for my in-office clientele, it's word of mouth for the most part, and for 18 years it's a steady build. It took me 7 or 8 years before I could go full-time with it, but I'm very fortunate to be able to do this full-time and to have a client list that I do that is waiting. It's unfortunate for the clients waiting that long, but it is reassuring for me that, from a work standpoint, I don't worry about the work.
Yeah, for sure. You sound like you're always busy.
I pretty much am.
Well, I want to get into the clips that we watched just before the break.
Sure.
It was from your show, Seeking Spirit. The first one was Shannon Gibb, and she talked about, you said, who he needs to grow up. And she was talking about it in the car that morning before she came to see you, she said. And I want to know how often that happens.
Where they will reference something so immediate or so recent?
So immediate.
It happens a lot. I literally just wrapped up a reading before I came here for the taping of this, and I was working with a mother and a daughter, and the mother's husband, the daughter's father was coming through, and we were joking about a statement to the mother about her driving ability, and I said, you probably think you're a good driver, but your husband's laughing because somebody thinks otherwise. And the mother kind of got her back up and she says, I'm a very good driver. And even the daughter said that. And I said, something recently just happened. He said that this is why he's calling you on it. And the mother started laughing. She said, actually, when I pulled into your parking spot to come in for the reading, I had to do it 3 times because I wasn't between the lines. And my daughter made a reference like, oh, Mom, you're not driving good today. So recent things like that will happen a lot.
Yeah, and that's so literally as before they walk in the door.
Oh yeah, I get a lot of information before the client ever calls me on the telephone or before they walk in my office.
Wow.
And it's just my way of knowing I'm linking up before I've ever met the person.
Yeah. And the second clip was from Melissa, and you had said there's a deceased relative showing that there was a miscarried son and she didn't know the sex, is safe on the other side. Mm-hmm. So how often do miscarriages or abortions get brought up in readings?
Quite often. I had one yesterday, one out of my readings, where the acknowledgement of a baby lost, and they were specific enough to the husband and wife sitting in my office that they acknowledged 2 children. Well, 1 child alive. She was pregnant with her next child, but she had lost one in between, and the mother was the mother in spirit was acknowledging having that child with her.
That's amazing. So it does come through then, people who have had a miscarriage.
Yeah, and people don't associate miscarriages and abortions as people. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's detachment because of healing purposes or guilt or remorse or what, but all those little babies have souls, and there's no judgment around abortion or a natural miscarriage or anything. It's just the child was never meant to survive.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. We only have a couple minutes left before we have to go to break, but there was another one, Darlene Milson. And you asked if she had a tattoo, and she said no, she didn't, but her daughter did, in memory of the person that was coming through. Does Spirit bring up tattoos a lot?
They do. Yeah. Again, yesterday it was referenced in one of the readings about a memorial tattoo, but not all are memorial tattoos. So it just depends. Yesterday's comment was to a woman with her mom in my office, and the person coming through acknowledged 2 tattoos close together, side by side, both memorials. And she validated that and showed it after the reading.
That's pretty
It was
specific.
on her back shoulder, so yeah.
That's amazing. And I have one more thing to ask you, which I think is a really important one from the last clip we saw. Actually, let's throw to it. It's of Michelle again, and a lady is coming through for her. So let's throw to the clip and have a look at that.
Do you understand why I would have this woman coming through and with the way I'm describing something in the chest region?
I think so.
And sudden, is this like a mother figure or older female to you?
Not to myself, to someone else.
But a mother figure?
Yeah.
So I need you to remember that, okay? Because she seems to be coming through. Since I'm not talking about your mother, do you know if in that family, is it for a female living?
Yeah.
Do you know if she's disconnected from dad or hasn't had the connection with dad?
Disconnected.
Because this is all coming through part and parcel, okay? So it's funny, Michelle, you're here, you're having the reading.
Right.
I'm giving you messages for a friend. But that's why I warn you. Is this the person you would have talked to earlier?
Yes.
Get the hell out.
Yeah. The last person I spoke to before I came here.
And you had a conversation about, I wonder if this could happen?
Yeah.
This is too cool.
She's like, give me my message.
Is that what she said to you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's try to do this, and then we'll get on to who you're hoping for.
Okay.
No promises.
So Chris, we just saw that clip from Michelle, and a lady had come through who she thought was her mother, but it ended up being her friend's mother who was trying to get a message through. How often does that happen in the readings?
It happens a lot. It's I don't know what percentage I would use or could use, I warn every client before we start in my intro, and people are always caught off guard because even though I tell them and I'm very clear that, you know, non-family members come through, and if you have a friend that's lost somebody significant to them, their loved one knows you're here, they can come through. Often they will, but it stumps people because it's not who they want to hear from. In Michelle's case, you know, the fact that it was the last conversation she had leaving work before she came for her reading / TV taping, that the mother was waiting to come through is pretty phenomenal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
If spirit needs to get a message across, they're going to get it across.
They
I
do,
guess.
and they don't always need a medium. So
Very neat. Well, we're going to take a quick break, Chris. But when we come back from the break, we have tons of questions from people online.
Sure.
They have some questions that they want to know from you.
For sure.
When we come back, there's tons of questions online that people want answered. So right after this break, we're going to have all those questions answered. Welcome back to Your Story. I'm still here with medium Chris Stillar, and Chris, we had a ton of questions come in online of things that people wanted to ask you. So I want to get right into those. The first one is from Emily, and she would like to know, how does spirit contact you? Is it through words, pictures, senses?
well, it's not just one way. There's the technical terms are called clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairescience, and those three things mean clear seeing, clear hearing, clear feeling. Some days it's not so clear. But spirit will use all three, and then there's others, but usually I will see images, little clips in my head, photos, things like that that they want me to describe. I'll hear things and I'll feel feelings and emotions. The one that I trust the most out of all three is when I feel the emotion of the spirit, because it's pretty hard to screw up emotion. I know if they're loving, I know if they're angry, I know if they're hurting, I know the sincerity of what they're bringing across, so I trust that the most. When I see pictures, I don't always know what that means. Yesterday in one of my readings with the couple, the husband and wife, the mother was coming through, and I kept seeing images from one of the local funeral homes with the velvet drapes hanging down and the lighting and kind of a morbid look to it, but And I said to them, I don't know how to describe this, but I think your mom's talking about a room in your house that looks like a room in a funeral home. And I think it needs changed. And they didn't get it quite at first, but when we were done and talking, she said that she's living in her mom and dad's house. Both her parents are passed. And her mom hung the velvet drapes 11 years ago in the living room, and they're still there, and there's lamps in front of them. And to me, that's what the funeral home looked like. So I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, but I know what I see.
Yeah. So people still have to try and interpret, or you still have to try and interpret
Sure.
what spirit is telling you.
Yeah, and I try not to interpret it because I usually get it wrong. But if I can just say what I think it is, or what the, you know, if there's a joke behind it, or if it's serious, people usually get it. And sometimes they get it later, you know, not right at the bat. You know, I get emails. I did a phone reading 2 weeks ago for a lady in California. I got an email just this morning from her thanking me because once she heard the recording for the second time, she totally understood what 3 of the messages were. So
You probably get a lot of those emails.
yeah, or feedback when people see you.
There's another one on here, Kathy. She had quite a few questions, but the one that really struck me, have you encountered an evil or angry spirit?
No. Angry, no. You know, sometimes a loved one will come through and they're not overly happy with a situation or a person's choices, but it's always loving. It's never evil. It's not, you know, nothing negative that way. I've not encountered it. 18 years, you would think if there was evil spirits or something, you know, the way Hollywood portrays it, that I might run into, but I haven't. So it's not something I think about.
Very interesting. And there was a question from Jeanette. I found this one really interesting as well. When does it go from healing to unhealthy when people are so desperate to hear from their loved ones who have crossed over?
Well, that's an individual thing, but it's one aspect that as a medium right from the start I was very conscientious of, because I didn't want people becoming dependent on me. And some people do, and some people think you can just throw it on and give them the answers to their life, and there's days I can't even figure out my life, and other people from around the world want me to solve their problems. I don't think it's going to happen. But when people come, healing usually comes if there's a need. But the slippery slope is if people get dependent on it. And the great thing now that I'm so busy, people can't rush back. And even when I wasn't as busy, when the waiting list wasn't as long, I was still very comfortable with saying to a person, I really think you have to wait. It's not about getting them in the door, getting their money. The ability will dry up if I don't use it well. And, you know, when somebody has come back too often, the loved one they want doesn't come through. Even if I know their story, I have nothing I can tell them because the person refuses to come through because the reason for the reading is not healthy.
And I'm assuming they would probably sometimes get similar messages if they came back that often.
Sure, how much changes in our life.
Yeah.
You know, it's different if you have another loss and you feel the need in the meantime. But for the most part, I try to reinforce to people, and especially bereaved parents are the ones that I really watch for. But we have to make our own connections with your child, your parents, your spouse, your siblings, whoever it is that's passed. To leave it up to a medium is a cop-out. And you need to have that connection on a daily basis. So you don't have to pay a medium for that.
Very neat. There's a question from Chris, and he would like to know how accurate you have been over the past 18 years. If you can put that into...
The marketing guy that I was would tell you I'm extremely good. I don't know. You'd have to ask my many clients. I think the fact that I have such a long waiting list, that it's word of mouth, that everything is just spreading because of my work ethics, my way of delivery, and my principles speak volume. How accurate am I? I don't know. That depends on the person. And there's times that I know I've been damn accurate and the client didn't get it because they don't want to get it or they don't see it. And there's other times where I think, oh, this is not good at all. So it's hit or miss. I don't know. A lot of people like what I do and think I'm very good at it. I can't put a percentage on it.
You must be pretty accurate if people are coming back time and time again.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd like to think so.
This one's kind of a funny one. I don't even know how you answer this, but I thought it was funny. From Colin, how do spirits live? Do they farm, eat, or cook?
When I die, I'll come back and let you know, Mandy, because I'm sure I'll get there before you. I don't think they eat because I'm pretty sure we don't have a digestive system over there when we don't have physical bodies. We're energy, we vibrate, we're consciousness. If I guess we want the sensation of eating, I guess we could have that. If we want to experience something, I'm pretty sure we create that instantaneously. But I think people have to be very clear that we don't have bodies. It's not a tangible thing that way. It's a very real existence, I believe, but we don't have the mechanics of the body, so we don't get illness. We don't get depression. We don't have any of the physical things that affect us here.
Very interesting. Well, it's quite the cool job that you have, Chris, and you don't call it a gift, but many people do. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
We have tons more questions, and unfortunately we can't get to them all, but people can always book a reading with you if they want to.
For sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mandy.
You've been watching Your Story with Mandy Webster.